Hello, what's going on, guys? Thanks for coming to Politics and Life. This is Jordan. Hope you're all having a fantastic night. If you wouldn't mind, please like, comment, hit that subscribe button. Also, if you want me to react to anything in the future, just let me know in the comment section. I want to do a wide range of stuff. Starting now, I'm going to do more music. I haven't done that in a while. I've been sticking to kind of politics. But today we are going to react to Piers Morgan's most recent interview he just released about an hour and a half ago in regards to the trans debate. As you know, the Democrats seem to have not learned anything in regards to the election landslide beating that they took place recently. We had a red landslide, as we know there would be, and they are still pushing this trans movement hardcore. My opinion is that it's disgusting. We should not allow legally born men, you're just a man, in women's spaces, in women's sports, because we've seen plenty of examples of women getting hurt, women who've worked their whole careers on these sports just getting the opportunity taken away like that from these men who are pretending to be women. It's not okay. And we should stop playing this circus because it's a very serious subject, especially when you see women being hurt and having scholarships taken away, just being injured while playing these sports because they are letting these men pretend to be women. And it's not okay. It should never be allowed. We live in clown world. Thank God we have the adults coming back into the White House in the next 2 months. God forbid that we make it to that point. But let's get it started, y'all. Please like, comment, subscribe. Let's get it.
We have to put a line in the sand and say, hell no, I don't want chicks with dicks in my bathroom, in my dressing room. I don't want to be forced to change in front of a man, period.
Nancy Mace has more ambition to be famous online than every single member of
Doesn't mean
Jersey
she's
Shore
wrong. Doesn't mean she's wrong.
She doesn't want to shower with a man while she's at work in the locker room.
I don't
Right.
think
That's why
Sarah
she's
McBride is looking to shower.
I don't get why the left gets so mad that the conservatives do not want men pretending to be women to be showering next to them in the same sports as them, doing anything with them. It's not okay. I mean, the feminists, the women who've fought for equal rights, and then they're also fighting for these men to pretending to be women as well. It makes absolutely no sense. It contradicts the original message, which was we wanted to be treated equally.
Nancy Mace.
God bless Donald Trump for drawing a line in the sand. Congresswoman Mace for doing the same. Men are men and women are women. Welcome back to normal. Brian, you tweeted about Project 2025. You've got one of the architects sitting right next to me here. What do you want to say to him?
I mean,
You sound like a sore loser, Brian. Two major conflicts have dominated political debate over the past week: the Ukraine war and the culture war. World War III, let's call it World War P. First, President Biden's decision to allow Ukraine to fire American missiles into Russia has triggered an enormous backlash. Critics say it's provocation,
Warmonger Piers.
escalation. Many of Trump's most influential supporters who backed him in part for his pledge to end the wars in Ukraine and Israel think that President Biden should be leaving the big decisions to the new sheriff in town.
Yeah.
How are you allowed to do that when you're on the way out? Like, the people don't want you to be there anymore. This should be like some sort of a pause for like significant actions that could potentially start World War III.
Yes.
Maybe that would be a good thing that we would like to avoid from a dying former president.
Mm-hmm.
It's the whole thing is nuts.
I mean, look, I don't know shit about politics.
Zelensky says Putin is terrified. Fuck you, man. Fuck you people.
Why should we play like chess, or why should we play with the fear of World War III happening where everyone dies? It's not worth it. Ukraine should be able to take care of themselves. I mean, we have homeless Americans and veterans on the street. Why should we be sending trillions to Ukraine when we can't even afford to take care of our own people? It makes no sense. If you want to support Ukraine, go there and fight for yourself. Donate your own money, but don't expect me to be for just giving all of my taxpayer funds to another country, by the way, that none of these politicians can even point to on a map. That's how much they do not care about this. They're lining their pockets with our tax dollars and getting very rich. As I just said, all of these oligarchs are just getting rich, and they give us literally no proof of where this money goes. They don't care where the money goes, and it's going right back into the pockets of the corrupt politicians. It's really that simple.
You fucking people are about to start World War III.
Well, the Ukrainians, for their part, say they don't want World War III. They say they didn't want war with Russia either. But they do want to save their country after they were invaded.
Why is he so obsessed with Ukraine?
Joe Rogan, I listened to your latest podcast. Let me tell you that you're repeating Russian propaganda. Putin's Russia
This
is
is all they ever say. If you don't agree that we should send billions of taxpayer dollars or military weapons to Ukraine, then you are talking Putin points. It just doesn't make any sense anymore. The vast majority of people just don't fall for that anymore. That is not a good talking point at all. Oh, you don't agree with me, so you're a Putin puppet. Okay.
in trouble. So they want to scare you and people like you. His war was supposed to last 3 days. It has lasted 3 years, thanks to the heroism and sacrifice of us Ukrainians. So you're using the only weapon that Putin really intends to use, propaganda.
On that propaganda point, Trump has a delicate balance to strike.
CIA.
Coaches, listen up. Are you having trouble getting high level or
No doubt he wants to end the war and stop the killing, and I wouldn't bet against him being able to
CIA
pull those things off. But how does he do it
created that
without
term.
handing Putin a propaganda win and a victory parade through Moscow? There's no way he wants to begin his presidency with that. It's a very complex debate and one that deserves our utmost attention. Unfortunately, Trump's critics appear to be hung up on a different fight, the fight for the right of transgender women to use female restrooms.
Trans women used bathrooms in the Capitol through all 4 years of the Trump administration. It doesn't seem like there was incidents or whatever her concerns out.
This is just hearsay. Show me the actual proof of that happening. Why should we let men who are men just go into women's restrooms? You're sending a message then. That's testing dangerous waters right there.
But much bigger than that, why is this the thing that you're so focused on right now?
Republican Congresswoman Nancy
That's true.
Mace has already begun her bullying. I don't understand why this is her welcome.
And Nancy Mace is trying to goad her into a fight she did not sign up to be part of. She's trying to pigeonhole her into being, you have to be this culture warrior who makes this your whole identity, purely because Nancy Mace doesn't like how she chooses to exist. And I think it's gross. I think it's just also so unserious.
Do you really
guys,
think she
people
even
can't
cares? I think she's just
She
using
wants
it.
the clicks. She has nothing else to stand
Yeah,
on.
but
There are stories coming out of prisons right now that they're allowing this nonsense to happen, and women are getting raped and impregnated because of these men pretending to be women, and they're just allowing it to happen. I mean, there's kids getting attacked in school bathrooms as well. I mean, biological women are getting their gym memberships revoked. Planned Parenthood, for example, not Planned Parenthood, Fitness 19, Fitness 19 literally taking away women's memberships because there's men in their bathrooms and they don't feel comfortable. So they side with the men. This is disgusting.
It's disgusting.
Fake outrage.
And everybody, no matter how you feel on this issue, should reject it completely. What are they doing? They're doing this so that Nancy Mace can make a buck and send a text and fundraise off an email. They're not doing this to protect people. They're endangering women. They're endangering girls of all kinds. And everybody should reject it. It's gross.
That doesn't even make sense.
Well, there's one thing we could all surely agree on. Only AOC could argue with a straight face that banning men from women's toilets is putting women in danger. In a moment, we'll debate the latest with Carrie Lake and an all-star panel. But first, here to answer the charge herself is Representative Nancy Mace. Well, welcome to you, Nancy Mace. You're one of the most famous people in America this week. I've got to say, I'm behind you on this.
As you
I
should
just
be.
feel like the most telling part of the election race to me was that the most effective ad of the whole campaign was the one that Donald Trump did directly about this whole issue, saying Kamala's for they, them, Trump is for you. And it was remarkably effective. I think a lot of people, particularly women, but a lot of people, including me, including you, we feel very strongly that this issue of trans athletes in women's sport, trans women in women's spaces and so on, has just got completely out of control and is unfair, unequal, or even indeed now potentially harmful. Tell me why you feel so exercised about this.
Well, I am deeply passionate about women's rights. I'm the first woman to graduate from the Citadel, the Military College of South Carolina. I'm also the very first Republican woman elected to Congress from my home state of South Carolina. And, this issue is hitting us right in our faces right now. And it's something that I will take a stand on. This is a hill I'm willing to die on to protect women and girls. And the other thing
There's another example in the Olympics. The woman that they said, the man that they said was a woman, actually the results came back that she was actually a man. And what happened? She literally I'm done doing that. He literally hit the woman just a few times and she had to quit because it hurt so badly. That's happening in a range of sports in today's society, and it's not being discussed.
Saying too is that I'm a survivor of rape. I was raped at the age of 16. And about a year ago, I had a deeply traumatic experience, and I was diagnosed with PTSD, or post-traumatic stress disorder, from abuse that I suffered at the hands of a man. And I've lost 30 pounds over the course of the last 12 months. This weekend, in fact, I moved for the 4th time in a year. And so I have suffered the consequences of abuse. And I know firsthand how women's private spaces should be just for women. Rape victims like myself, or any woman for that matter, should not be forced to undress in front of men. And that's what the insanity of the left, that's what their policies are causing, not just on Capitol Hill, but all across the country,
They're obsessed
in
with it.
schools, in locker rooms, dressing rooms, bathrooms. This is happening everywhere. And we have to put a line in the sand, big, fat, bold, red line, and say, hell no, no more. Like I am going to fight like hell for this.
Yes.
I don't want chicks with dicks in my bathroom, in my dressing room. I don't want to be forced to change in front of a man, period. And it's a trigger for me. And I absolutely am going to go to the mat for women and girls everywhere and put a stop to it.
You know, your critics say when you use phrases like chicks with dicks, you're being deliberately inflammatory and you're fueling transphobia, that you have essentially a hatred of trans people. What would you say to them?
I would say they're completely off the rails. They're worried about feelings and not facts. And the facts are, Piers, I voted for gay marriage not once, but twice. I have co-sponsored legislation to protect the rights of those in the LGBTQ community. But I draw a line, the insanity of the left that thinks it's okay for a man and his penis to be in our private spaces. And look, Piers, I was receiving hundreds of death threats a day last week. I got over 1,000 death threats. I've had to increase my security. Some guy tried to rush the stage last week trying to get at me. I've had multiple people in front of Capitol Police that were guarding me come up to me and try to verbally or physically accost me over the last couple of days. The fact that you're willing to kill a woman over her right to privacy it's insanity. And I feel like the more that they come after me, the harder I'm going to fight back, the harder I'm going to push back. It's rabid insanity is what it is.
You know, what's fascinating is that you're obviously a conservative, but J.K. Rowling, who's had exactly the same experience that you have for raising exactly the same concerns, she's very much to the left. So they're pretty, non-discriminatory in the abuse and threats that they dish out. The trans lobby over this. And again, I've always said, all I want for trans people is the same rights to fairness and equality that I enjoy and that you enjoy and everybody else enjoys. But what it can't do, and I felt strongly about this for years, it cannot erode women's rights to fairness, equality, and safety. And that's really what the nub of this debate is. When you see people like AOC, for example, screeching away about you, what do you feel? Because I always feel with her, on the one hand, she's all for we've got to protect women's rights for abortion, for example. But she doesn't give a damn about 6'5" biological males dominating.
It's political theater. Only when it's necessary does she throw a little tantrum, just like when the border situation was happening under Trump the first time. They were deporting or making the illegals wait in Mexico to have their cases heard. They said nothing in regards to Biden, AOC. They said nothing in regards to Obama, AOC. But the minute Trump gets in office and he starts deporting or making these families wait to hear their child and make sure they're here on good premise, she throws a big fit. It's all political theater with AOC. No one trusts AOC. She is 100% fake actor.
Women's sport or getting into boxing rings in women's boxing at the Olympics and winning gold medals by beating up actual women when they have male chromosomes. So it's a complete double standard. And I think it's partly one of the reasons they got such a thumping in the election, because I think most people are like, you know what? This stuff's nuts.
Totally. And you saw Kamala Harris. She won women at a lesser margin than Joe Biden did. When he won in 2020, he won women by plus 13 points. Kamala won women by 8 points. And so women are trending away from the Democrat Party. And in fact, just a few minutes ago before we got on to tape this interview, I heard from yet another Democrat woman who is sick and tired of being marginalized by the left. And I've heard from lesbians, I've heard from gays, and, they're like, we understand you want to protect our rights and this goes too far. We get it. We support you. And so I appreciate I'm grateful for everyone of every political stripe, every orientation who said, we're with you, because this is going to take an army to push back against 1/2 of the population. And literally they're putting my life in danger. I've been called an extremist, a right winger, and I am conservative, but what they're doing, the violent rhetoric they're using, is putting the life of my life and my kids' lives in danger. And it's not okay. And I'm just going to fight back. I'm going to fight back harder.
Well, it is absolutely shocking that you've been receiving all these death threats. It's shocking. It's outrageous. It's shameful. And it comes from a group of people on the left who love to put #BeKind in their X profiles and claim they stand for empathy and compassion and so on. They don't show any of that to people like you or J.K. Rowling, who stand up over the parapet. I think of Riley Gaines as well, who's been incredibly brave in the sports issue and has had a similar experience where she's been literally barricaded in buildings as howling mobs have descended on her. There's a real hypocrisy there, isn't there? That the Be Kind Brigade are often the most vicious.
The party of joy.
It's
the
fake.
party that says they're going to protect women. They're only going to protect trans women. I mean, that's kind of where we are right now. And I've been saying this for a long time now, that Republicans and conservatives are going to protect women. And we're literally seeing this unfold in real time. The way that I have been treated, the bigotry that's out there, the hatred, the evil, the threat of violence, threat of killing me, the threat of raping me, because I don't want male genitalia in my bathroom, because I don't want to be forced as a rape victim to have to undress in front of men. Like, that's just not, it's not okay. It infringes upon our rights as women, the rights of girls. And I've heard from a number of people all across the country who agree, men and women alike, and I'm deeply appreciative of it. But this fight doesn't stop here. So I got the speaker to change the policy on the Hill, but I have since filed federal legislation to protect women in federal facilities, federal property. That would include federal prisons. I mean, there are men who identify as women who are rapists sitting in federal prison in women's units, continuing to violate women.
It's completely outrageous. Yeah, it's completely outrageous. In fact, the first minister of Scotland, Nicola Sturgeon, one of the reasons she lost her job was because she allowed a male rapist to basically stick his hand up, claim to be a woman, and then be transferred to a woman's prison, where he was then surrounded by potential new prey. I mean, it was almost beyond parody.
And it's happening here in our country. And then I'm going to file a third bill when we go back in session December for any facility or property that receives any federal funding anywhere in the country. It's going to stop there too. And then I'll have a very specific prison bill to protect women in prison. I've done prison reform in the past for women, and it looks like we got to do it again as well as a standalone.
I want to play a clip. This is Sarah McBride, who's the first transgender woman to be in Congress, recently elected. She said this on CBS News, Face the Nation.
Every bit of time and energy
You're a dude.
that is used to divert the attention of
You
federal
sound like a
government to go
dude.
after trans people is time and energy that is not focused on addressing the cost of living for our constituents.
What's your response to that?
Oh my God.
Well, I mean, the misogyny.
One, the cost of living has gone up. Grocery prices, everyday essentials have gone up because the Democrat Party spend our money into oblivion. So there's nothing you're really working on. The left is obsessed with abortions, and they're obsessed with transgender rights. There's no rights being taken away. Trump didn't take any white rights away. It's hogwash, and no one's buying it.
Women can walk and chew gum at the same time. We can do more than one policy at any given time.
Yes, we
I
can.
filed almost 100 bills in my first 2 terms in Congress. I work on a lot of issues. This isn't the only one, but it's certainly the one that has touched a chord with women across the country from both parties. And I'm going to continue to work hard and fight for them while I'm stemming the tide of inflation and out of control government spending that's been caused by both parties for decades now. We need to stem the tide of illegals crossing into our country, invading our country illegally, and we've got to protect women. We can do all those things all at the same time. There's nothing to stop women who work hard.
Have you heard from President-elect Trump in the last week since all this started?
I have heard from folks that will be in his administration that are part of his team, and they support me in this endeavor. And they saw what you saw, Piers, and that ad, they and them, and versus he's for you, and they support me on this policy, and I hope they'll support me in the future bills that we're filing as we speak now.
Well, Nancy Mace, I appreciate you joining me. Thank you very much.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Here comes the
We're
fun.
joined to discuss this and more. Kevin Roberts, president of the Heritage Foundation and architect of Project 2025, and the author of Dawn's Early Light, Carrie Lake, a leader in the America First.
I love Carrie Lake.
We've had many spirited debates over the years.
Patriot.
He's commentator Geraldo Rivera. Great to have him back.
Hey, Geraldo is a disgusting human being. He used to work for Fox. He's a warmonger. He's a neocon. He got fired because even Fox's own audience, like 100% of them, could not stand this dude. This dude is disgusting.
And the host of No Lie with Brian Tyler Cohen.
Same with him,
Brian
gross.
Tyler Cohen. Let me go to you, Geraldo, first. A, because I love talking to you, and it's great to have you back.
Thank you.
B, because this election result did not go the way that you anticipated, or indeed the way you.
Hey, want to know how I got this $50,000 check for an accident I was involved in over 5 months ago?
Voted. Do you think that one of the reasons, I think it was threefold. One, economy stroke cost of living, no question. Secondly, the crisis on the southern border and the whole issue of illegal immigration. But thirdly, what the left like to call a culture war, but actually what Trump has said is a sort of battle for common sense.
Yep.
And one of the things for common sense being this issue
What's up, Squid Man?
of trans people in women's spaces. Do you think that was we know that ad, the Kamala's for they, them, Trump's for you, was very effective. Do you think it had a bigger impact than people realize?
Geraldo.
I think it certainly had a huge impact, and you're absolutely right about the three pillars of what happened: the southern border, the economy, and this trans issue. But the trans issue to be equated with those two monumental, profound, earth-shaking issues is exactly my problem with the issue. It's not half of 1% of the American people, as Congresswoman Mace suggests. It's 1% of 1%. It's a tiny.
Why'd they vote on it?
Cases for the whole country to be obsessed with this issue is extremely.
First of all, there's thousands of cases of men pretending to be women, taking away scholarships, hurting women, invading their privacy, raping them in jail, and ended up getting them pregnant. No, that's just 100% a false lie. But what do you expect from Geraldo? Disgusting.
Hang on. Geraldo, you're a big sports fan like me. There was a United Nations report that came out 2 weeks ago, and it said that 900 medals had gone to trans athletes around the world, thus depriving.
I actually saw a powerlifting competition recently, and this dude didn't even dress up as a woman. He was literally buff as heck, wearing just regular men's workout clothes, and he outlifted these women by almost double the weight and got the medal, and nothing happened at all. They let it happen. It is a joke. And the fact that he is defending this when he knows it's wrong, it's common sense. Do you want your daughter performing with a dude? No, because it's not okay. It's not equal.
Or biological women.
Yeah, he's a soy boy, all right.
Medals. That's not a small, insignificant thing. And what you're beginning to see are more and more cases of trans athletes beginning to dominate in women's sport. And it led inevitably, I felt, to the farce at the Paris Olympics, where Iman Khalif won the gold medal in a women's boxing competition.
That's what I was talking about.
After one of the women who fought against Iman Khalif had to quit after 40 seconds. She'd never been hit that hard in her life. And Iman Khalif has been widely reported now and was banned from the World Championships earlier than the Olympics because of this, for having male chromosomes. In other words, is for all intents and purposes, a biological male. With your sports hat on, knowing how important the integrity of sport relies on fairness and equality, you can't be happy about that.
I am not happy about it at all. And I believe that your biological identity is pretty easily determined, or should be.
Then why are you defending it?
What is appropriate for athletic competition, or which bathroom you use. But I also think that this issue has been used. You talk about culture war. This issue has been used to aggravate a kind of unrest a kind of division in the country. It really is exacerbating, and people are exploiting the issue in a way that is extremely troubling to me, rather than, for example, you making a comment.
So pretty much just come out, Geraldo. Stop dancing around the question. He obviously supports men being in women's sports and women's spaces and women's locker rooms. He obviously doesn't care about women's daughters being protected. So, I mean, I expect nothing less from Geraldo. He's a neocon warmonger Democrat. He pretends he's independent or Republican, but he's disgusting inside and out.
Accommodation for people who say they are on transition. There is, I use a cane now.
No, Squid Man, the hat my lady ordered me actually never came in, surprisingly. Yeah, I am going to have to order a dark Brandon hat and a dark MAGA hat, which I'm going to do tonight, boy.
There's a restroom for handicapped people that, generally speaking, is one person at a time. Let them use that one. There are ways to accommodate.
No, but
this
I agree with that.
But it's not happening.
No, but I totally
exaggerated
listen,
as
Geraldo, I could not agree more. And in
Disgusting.
sport, I think it's very straightforward. You just say that all trans women athletes, you have your own category, or you compete in the male category, which is the one that most of them have previously competed in, albeit almost always far less successfully. And that's the point. They are far more successful trans athletes when they switch to women's sport than they ever were in men's sport. And that is my big problem with this. That's why we separate the sexes at the Olympics.
Exactly.
Otherwise, women would win no medals. Everyone knows that. Otherwise, why would we separate them?
Exactly.
Carrie Lake, welcome back to you. I'm sorry about your loss. I was not as sorry as you probably are, but nice to have you. Their loss is our gain, Carrie. So welcome to the Uncensored as always.
Yes, I actually did see Cenk, and that was the only time I will ever agree with Cenk Huger destroy Alan Lichman. Yeah, and you see he almost felt like how he was responding. It's like he had this God complex, like he thinks he's God, like you can't critique him on being wrong. And he said the only reason Trump won was because misinformation and Elon Musk. No, Trump won because he has common sense, and we need common sense back in the White House. It's really that simple.
This whole issue of the cultural war, including the trans thing, but also what Trump called the core of common sense. I do feel that particularly with men, millions more of whom gravitated to Trump, whether they were black men, Latino men, white men, whatever. I think they do care about this stuff, and they voted with their feet.
And their pocket.
100%, and men and women. I mean, fathers out there having to think about their daughter going into a locker room and having a biological boy or man in there with their daughter put their foot down and said, hell no.
Yep.
And let me tell you, I applaud Congresswoman Mace for standing up and taking a stance on this. People have to realize that in Congress, many of these congressmen and women live right there in their office because they can't afford to have a home in their home district and also one in Washington, D.C. So this isn't just about going to the restroom. It's about showering and getting ready in the locker rooms. And you know what? We're tired as women of mentally ill men playing dress up, trying to act like they're women. We're not going to surrender our womanhood to this anymore. And as a country, we need to stand up and say enough. Enough is enough. We've had great strides as women, and we're not going to hand over those strides and be disappeared by this transgender movement. And we've got to stop pushing it in our schools on our children. When I was growing up many years ago, I grew up and went to a rural school, and there were no transgender kids. Nobody even knew what that term was. And now today in that same rural school, I'm told there are 12 or 13 kids in the junior high who believe they're transgender. This is being pushed on our children. It's very dangerous. And we just saw this story today.
And it's sad because they do take people, let's say, who got picked on, who have issues in regards to depression or who might get beat at home and so just have low self-esteem, and they target those people. And then one little thing can be wrong where they just need some attention. Instead, these teachers or these counselors, these people, these corrupt agencies will target them and say, hey, maybe you're a woman even though you're a man, or maybe you're a man even though you're a woman. And they will use them on their weaknesses. And it is so sad, especially when they're at their most vulnerable ages and they're young little kids, still adapting, still gaining knowledge, and they use it to their advantage. And that just pisses me off so much. The trans agenda is just communism in its own way. anyone, just look at Matt Walsh's What is a Woman? It exposes the whole trans agenda. It exposes who created it, the ideology behind it, the doctors behind the whole movement. It's very disgusting, but I would suggest every parent that is dealing with that issue needs to show their kids and watch it with their kids, because it would explain the whole entire agenda, everything behind the scenes of what's happening. It is grooming 101.
It brings a tear to my eye because I've gotten a chance to meet the father, Jeff, who just lost custody of his 12-year-old son. The courts in California have taken away his custody because he wants to protect his son.
Of course, California. Of course, it's California, guys. Come on, hurry up. Sorry about that, guys.
From being sterilized by this crazy movement that is out to get our children. And we got to stop sometime. This is not normal. It's not the new normal, and we will never accept it.
Yeah, I agree. Brian, you and we've debated this quite a lot, actually. I want to play you a clip because you might be surprised where I go with this. But I want to play you a clip. This is from an interview I did with President Trump in his first term in office about the issue of transgenders in the military, which is rumored overnight that he wants to ban all transgender women from the military. Let's take a look.
The cost of the medication is minuscule.
We need zero woke stuff in the military. We got men across the world in China, Russia, all these authoritarian countries, real men. You think they're fear mongering or panicking over these dudes dressed in military uniform, USA uniform, dressing up as trans? It is it's an embarrassment. I'm sorry. And nothing against trans people, but you do not belong in the military. If you're going to dress up in trans, you're a grown adult. Okay, do your thing, but you do not need to be in the military. There is no link between the two, and it should never be linked together. It's embarrassing. We have world leaders laughing at us right now with this crap.
It's the overall budget, right? You accept that. The US military spends a lot more money, for example, on giving Viagra to service men and women, or service men.
I didn't know they did.
Than it does actually on medical bills for transgender people. Yeah. And so it just seems to me an unnecessary thing for a guy who wants to be supportive of LGBT rights and the community around the world, that you've taken this action.
Well, it is what it is. Look, massive amounts. And also people were going in and then asking for the operation. And the operation is $200,000, $250,000.
That's crazy.
And getting the operation, the recovery period is long, and they have to take large amounts of drugs after that for whatever reason, but large amounts. And that's not the way it is. I mean, you can't do that.
So Brian, this all got very analyzed at the time, and there's no doubt you are allowed to take a lot of pharmaceutical substances if you're in the military.
And the stuff they're giving to these children, they give to euthanize pedophiles. They literally give this type of stuff to pedophiles. Disgusting.
So that point was corrected. I think he had a point about the surgery.
Something.
You know, if you have trans surgery and it takes you out of work for a sustained period of time, I can see why that would be difficult. But I didn't really, and I don't really now understand why trans people can't serve in the military. I mean, the whole argument about the sport thing goes out the window because, frankly, if trans women in the military are stronger or better or faster than
you want to look strong,
who cares, right? It doesn't matter. Stronger the better. So, on that part, I think that is more controversial to me.
Yeah, I think it puts on full display the extent to which he and the vast majority of Republicans aren't actually in this for legitimate reasons. They're just
you are. It's your party that's actually forcing and letting these men pretending to be women go into these locker rooms, compete with these women who work their whole careers to get where they're at, and then you just get taken away from a biological men. No, it's your party that's doing it, so you have no room to say shit.
People because they recognize that as a culture war issue, it benefits them. Look, going back to Nancy Mace, you know, she explains on a weekly basis how she was the victim of sexual assault, including in this very previous segment with you. And yet, you know, and to that point, you know, I feel for her, and I think that's absolutely also awful. But she also breathlessly supports somebody like Donald Trump, who is an adjudicated rapist and who was credibly accused of sexual assault by 26 different women.
That's a lie.
So the cognitive dissonance at play here, first of all, is incredible. But second of all, just with regard to Nancy Mace, with regard to Donald Trump, we know why they're doing this. Nancy Mace is not afraid of Sarah McBride chasing her into the bathroom. She's not. She wants to fundraise off this. She wants
to. The point, though, once you go woke and you allow this to happen, you are pushing buttons that you shouldn't be pushing. We have kids that are being affected by this. We have middle schoolers, college kids. We even have pros that are being affected by this. It's not okay. So of course he's going to bring up, oh, Trump's been convicted. Now I guess there's 20 plus women that said he raped him. Of course, there's never proof. It's just hearsay, but they'll always use that as a talking point to justify the left's actions. Disgusting.
To be social media famous. She wants to be, Nancy Mace has more ambition to be famous online than every single member of
doesn't mean
Jersey
she's
Shore
wrong. Doesn't mean she's wrong.
It means that she's doing this to help herself, and she's not
Okay,
actually
well, she's not the
concerned about
first.
this issue.
Yeah, but Brian, come on, look.
And
hang on.
Hang on,
Brian.
Geraldo's
A politician doing something to help themselves. If that was a criteria for why we shouldn't listen to them, we'd never have anybody to interview, right? So of course,
I get it, but that doesn't mean we can't call. That doesn't mean we can't call them
no,
out.
it doesn't mean I can't call you out on the fact that
egregiously
she.
self-concerned.
I don't think it makes her wrong. So it may be she has other vested interests,
If
but it doesn't necessarily make her wrong.
Disgusting human being.
If she was actually looking for a legitimate way forward, she would do exactly what Geraldo did, which is instead of beating the drum about this and vilifying Sarah McBride to the ends of the earth, this woman who has, by the way, operated with nothing other than class and grace since the moment she was elected to her position, she would have actually just sought a solution. But nowhere in the days and weeks of her, like doing the fainting couch spell, has she brought forward any single indication that she's willing to look for a solution? She hasn't said, let's get a different back. She hasn't said that she's willing. That
she has the solution. You ban it. I mean, just bang. That's it.
Really that simple.
Calling for this one woman to not be able to use bathrooms is not the
It's
same
not one
as her
woman.
saying.
It would be any. It's not one woman. It would be any transgender people who are in Congress.
This is an attack. This is an attack. Piers, this is an attack on Sarah McBride. We all know why she's doing this. Don't play dumb here. We know that this is because she
But I don't
sees an
think
opportunity
transgender
for
women
herself.
should be in women's spaces. So I agree with her.
She doesn't want to shower with a man while she's at work in the locker room.
I don't
That's
think
why
Sarah
she's
McBride is looking to shower next to Nancy Mace.
No
And
one
by the way,
cares.
if any of these people were actually concerned, then they would all be beating their chests about
It's
what.
amazing that in 2024, with as advanced as technology has gotten, we have people like this on actual radio stations, on news stations defending this. And then he's literally just making up lies about Trump. And she literally said how she got raped and she doesn't feel comfortable with biological men being in supposed to be safe spaces for women. And he's literally using that against her. What a despicable human being he is.
Donald Trump has done, but nobody's concerned about it. Donald Trump is.
Here we
Donald
go
Trump is,
again.
as
Back
far
to
as
Trump.
the courts go, as far as these accusations of sexual assault go, he is 10 to the nth degree more dangerous than anybody like Sarah McBride. But of course, nobody talks about him because
let me bring
it's
in
politically convenient because he's part of their political party.
Okay, let me bring in Kevin Roberts from the Heritage Foundation as the president and the architect of the now infamous Project 2025. Kevin, good to see you here in London. You've obviously been, you were deemed so outrageously extreme that Donald Trump even distanced himself from Project 2025, said he never heard of it, which I found slightly unlikely.
Yeah, soy boys.
You've taken a
for
very
sure.
strong view about things like LGBTQ rights, abortion, and so on. What many people believe to be a quite extreme conservative view of this.
Not extreme.
What is your
Hey, did you know that SMUD is
sorry,
now
guys.
paying Sacramento homeowners thousands of dollars upfront?
view about where most Americans sit?
Most Americans, if they were listening to this discussion, would say that it's baseless and absurd to claim that this is an issue, the issue of a biological man wanting to be in a woman's space as being normal. And it isn't just about one member of Congress. In fact, why don't you go ask the members of the volleyball teams in the Mountain West Conference who literally are under physical assault.
This woman, and I saw it, one of these volleyball teams that he's talking about, this woman had her nose shattered by a biological man. He was spiking it over the net, came back, shattered this woman's nose. What about that woman, huh? You know, the Democrats do not care about women. They care about what they can push out to fearmonger. That's it.
When a man spikes the volleyball against them, so much so that they apolitically, Piers, decide they're going to boycott all of these games at the expense of their own careers. Ask Riley Gaines, ask Paula Scanlon, who had to compete against a biological man. Ask Chloe Cole, one of the famous detransitioners, who speaks so eloquently about the pain as a human of going through this transition, which of course is propelled by the kind of nonsense that the transgender ideology industry puts on them. So all of that to say, to answer your question directly, the culture war always comes to our doorstep. This isn't some fabrication of the radical right or conservatives. This is something that is real. It's real in the military. It's real for those of us who have daughters at home and are in these public spaces. And God bless Donald Trump for drawing a line in the sand, Congresswoman Mace for doing the same. This is saying something this radical, Piers. Men are men and women are women.
Right?
Welcome back to normal.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, Geraldo.
I mean, this is coming from the party, the left, who can't even identify what a woman is, let alone they're trying to change the term of mother to birthing person, now saying that men can give birth, that they could feed their babies through, milk. It's just laughable. The Democrats are the party of nonsense, okay? When you can't even identify what a woman is, but basic biology that we've had forever, then you lose all credibility, and you are a joke, straight up.
The point, I guess, is that President Trump, with the thumping scale of his win, when you win the popular vote, the Electoral College, the Senate, the House of Representatives, the White House, when you have a clean sweep, you get to do what you want, and you get to do what you said you were going to do.
Yep.
Are you just turn to that election result for a minute, because you had, like me, we had our ups and downs with Trump over the years, but as in the run-up to the election, you were very clear you could not vote for this guy. And were you surprised that he won in such an emphatic way?
I wasn't surprised.
I was shocked by the depth and breadth of his victory.
Blah, blah, blah.
I also
blah, blah.
Was somewhat chagrined looking in the mirror at how ineffective I was in terms of communicating how important it was.
That's because no one cares what you have to say, Geraldo. You're a scumbag. You have sold out for money and fame. That's it. And you won't be remembered. If anything, you'll be remembered as a sellout.
That he violated our Constitution on January 6th when he encouraged, incited, and unleashed the invasion of our capital.
That's not true. Trump said peacefully and patriotically make your voices heard. He never incited any violence. He never told anyone to go into the Capitol. That is a lie. But that's funny. That's still almost 5 years later, he's still using the same talking points on a daily basis because they have nothing. They have no substance on policy at all. So the left goes back to fear mongering. And yes, Squidman, bro, if we went back in time and told someone that this is America in 2024, they would think you're crazy. Yeah, it's like we're backtracking. The people are getting more dumb. They don't even vote off policy, which is why we had a red wave. And if they did voter ID in the states that Kamala won, she probably wouldn't have won any states. But it looks like the only states Kamala won in the 2024 election were the ones that did not require voter ID.
But I have to say that on the trans issue, which he brilliantly exploited, generally speaking, America is a pretty reasonable place. Common sense is
not you. You don't have
pretty
common sense.
Much an American trait, British as well. But I feel that this issue, if people were keen on solving it, first of all, if it seems wrong, then it is wrong. If it seems wrong for 6'6" trans men to play volleyball against the 5 foot,
it is.
And why do you defend it?
Women, then it is wrong. If it feels wrong, it is wrong. So people should seek to fix it. And the way to fix it is the American way, is by compromise.
Love it.
The way to fix it is
so funny.
You don't play men in transition against women, because it is fundamentally.
Well, the thing is, Geraldo, they're on. Look, I don't want to keep talking about this one issue, but the point is there is no actual compromise to be had. You either allow it or you don't.
Exactly.
You either recognize the separation of the sexes or you don't. And you either
create
believe
a third wave, as you suggested, a third way.
The third way.
No, why should we give these people even any more time or speaking time? They have already played their cards and dealt their hand. We know what they're about. You were born a man, compete with men. You were born woman, compete with women. Now, if you want, I actually would be okay with a trans league where you guys can just get in your own league and do it yourselves. But if you're a man, you compete with men otherwise. And if you're a woman, you compete with women. Women are getting hurt. They are getting attacked. They are not feeling safe in locker rooms. It's not okay. And we should have never accepted it.
It's not a compromise.
Another-
What that is
another
just
lead.
what that is just explaining there can just be a different category. But what it can't be is competing against women or using women's spaces.
Because it's not fair, and that makes sense.
Yeah,
It's
that's
not
what I
fair.
think. But Gerardo, he's filled his cabinet pretty much completely now. You know, I'm hearing from my sources on the Hill that it's pretty likely that, notwithstanding Matt Gaetz obviously stepping down very
I
quickly,
love
that
Matt
almost
Gaetz.
all of the others, if not all of them, are likely to be confirmed. And if you put them all together, you have an extraordinary collection of people with all different political views. They're
All
joined
those
at the
Democrats.
hip by the MAGA umbrella, but they all have very different views about so many issues. I'm quite excited by it.
Me too.
And you look at someone like Elon Musk, there are many key issues that Elon Musk would otherwise be described as a liberal. You know, he's really a Democrat in Republican wolf's clothing. Is it interesting to you, as it is to me, that people like Joe Rogan, Elon Musk, Robert Kennedy Jr., all these guys, Tulsi Gabbard, they all used to be basically Democrats.
Well, because as they always said, we didn't leave the Democrat Party. They left us. They've gone very woke, very insane, pushing this transgenderism on little kids from the minute they get into school, pushing DEI on everything. And if you don't agree with it, they will go after you. They will try to shut down the company. They are not, they're communists. It's really that simple. DEI woke communists. If you don't do what they say, they go after you in the full effect and use the government to go after you. That's that.
And they felt forced to move to the Republicans because they just think this woke mind virus that Musk, I think, quite accurately calls it, has made the left too bonkers for them.
I agree with everything you said, but I think you left out one key component. That is that many people in this proposed cabinet are like us, you and I, Piers, veterans of Fox News. And I think that President Trump has had a wonderful relationship over the decades with Fox News, first with Roger Ailes and then with the subsequent management. And they have graduated and they are communicators and they are charismatic. And Pete Hegseth had, a wonderful host on Fox and Friends Weekend Edition. I sat on the couch with him many a time. Mike Huckabee, the designated ambassador to Israel, also on Fox News. Sean Duffy, his wife, Rachel Campos Duffy.
Chicago conservative, what's up, bro? How you been?
A weekend host on Fox News. I am delighted that with these Pam Bondi, the Attorney General of Florida, yes, but also a veteran of Fox News and Hannity and countless times on my Geraldo at Large program. I think
I'm so hoping. Good to see me. I'm about to do. Oh yeah, I want to do a live with you guys soon. I've been busy with my lady, as you know. I've been still trying to post song reactions lately. I've had a very slow month. This is my slowest month ever, actually. If you guys are coming from X, aka Twitter, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. That's where I'm doing this from. It's called Politics and Life, or California JB 5460.
That he went for pragmatic communicators. I think they'll do a fine job. Whatever you think of their underlying politics, that doesn't interest me. And in this regard, I care that Major Pete Hegseth can, although he faces a steep learning curve, be an excellent defense secretary. He gets it. He's also a wonderful, eloquent, and effective veterans advocate.
Right.
Pete gets it.
Yeah.
I think that Pam and Pete are two excellent examples. Mehmet Oz, Dr. Oz.
Yeah. Well, they're very, I think the point is that they're all quite different, I think, to the normal kind of appointees. And Brian, I've just written a column today for the New York Post about The View, the ABC mid-morning show, because it seemed to me utterly farcical that you have a major networks show mid-morning aimed at America in its entirety, and it's a very popular show, where all 6 hosts come election day voted for Kamala Harris, and all 6 of them loathe Donald Trump. And I've done a column saying they love to try and cancel Donald Trump. They've lost spectacularly. He's won against that argument. They should be canceled, because actually the days of just mainstream media having 98% of the people on it screaming abuse about.
Could you imagine if it was just even 20 to 80%? I mean, it's like 95% is a liberal media. And that's why I'm praying that Elon Musk buys MSNBC, because as we know, no one watches it. It is tanking. Could you imagine if he put like Alex Jones in charge? That would be so amazing. Let me know, guys, what you guys think. I would love to see Alex Jones or Tucker on MSNBC. We call it MSRNC for Republicans. That's a dope name. I like that. But yeah, I love what's in the works. I love what I see coming in the future. America looks like it's going to be prosperous. We're going to secure that border. We're going to have a record economy just like Trump did last time. Things are looking like it's going to go in the right direction. Let's just pray that we make it till then.
Trump and all being brazen liberals or Democrats, they're over, aren't they? I mean, you guys took a drubbing. It's done. Toast. You've got to move back to accepting Trump's here for the next 4 years, and you better get with a bit of the program because the screaming doesn't work.
Piers, do you not see any irony in, after years and years and years of conservatives and right-wingers and you coming forward and saying that cancel culture is bad, we hate cancel culture, this is the reason that the left is losing, and now you're calling for the view to be canceled?
I'm ahead of you. My final line says, given the enthusiasm with which the View hosts, all of them, tried so hard to cancel Donald Trump, they should maybe take their own lesson and be canceled. Because it's what they would want.
Yeah, exactly.
Because they're now the ones.
Exactly.
They said Trump was out of step with the American people.
Yep.
They said he was just a little representative.
Guys, I'm about to cash a check for $180,000.
Sorry, guys.
And get my...
A small number of MAGA people. No, actually, that's not the case. He's had a thumping win across the board. Therefore, the View hosts are out of step with the American people. Therefore, they should be cancelled. And I don't mean get rid of the show. I mean, get rid of them and replace them with a more balanced team.
Bring in a couple conservatives with common sense with America First policies, because lately no one's challenged the View at all. They are far left liberal progressives. No one ever challenges them on their views. And when they do, they'll interrupt them. And it's very rare that they'll bring someone on who actually challenges them. I mean, can you imagine bringing two conservatives, like actual conservatives on the show, challenging what they're saying? They would get called out every time, because everything they always say, especially what's her name, Sunny Hostin, she literally just calls everyone racist and a bigot if they don't agree with her. It's ridiculous. No one watches The View at all.
I have a few men as well. Me and Geraldo could pop in there.
Piers, Trump won his election by a 1.5% popular vote margin in the country.
He barely
Joe Biden won that by 3 times that much in 2020. The notion that this is some massive repudiation of the Democratic Party and that we have to burn the whole thing down and
Brian,
up from the ashes rise some physics
you're in denial.
is a joke.
Brian. Look,
I'm not.
I can bet your day even worse, by the way.
I'm not.
I know you do a bit of work for MSNBC.
Listen, let me finish talking.
Elon Musk is about to buy you.
I'm not in denial about the fact that Democrats have lost, and in fact, I more than anybody online, I'm sure on the left, has been open to this idea of introspection. What Democrats can do moving forward. But the notion that all of a sudden the Democratic Party is irrelevant when a couple million more people for the second time in this century voted for Republicans in the popular vote over the Democrats.
Come on, Brian. If I said
Piers.
to you 2 years ago, Donald Trump will win the popular vote and the Electoral College and the Senate and the House and the White House, you'd have thought I was stark raving bonkers. You'd have bet your house, you'd have bet your family, you'd have bet every penny you own that could never happen. You've been all caught napping at the wheel, right? You fell asleep at the wheel and you let him drive by and take the whole shebang.
Yep.
I think Democrats should take a long, hard look in the mirror and admit you've just been completely pounded.
And they haven't. Instead, the Democrats have even gone more woke, more extreme. And they're actually still calling even minority voters, Black and Latino voters who voted in record numbers for Trump, they're calling them bigots now and saying they're like black faces of white supremacy or something. It just doesn't make any sense. The people are done. They've been exposed. Their cards have been exposed. They are America last. They are doing the great replacement theory right in front of our eyes, where they give free everything off our taxes to these illegals and then just say F you to the American people. That's the Democrats' policy plan.
Into total shameful, humiliating oblivion. And you got to start again. And you got to find politicians that actually resonate with the American people. And it's not the current shower you've got.
Hey, Chicago conservative, I'd love to do a live with you guys soon. I've been wanting to talk to you and Dennis. So yeah, let me know when you guys have time soon and we'll do a live. I'd love to do it.
Sorry.
So
Same with
Piers,
you,
in
Squid Man.
2020, would you have said the same thing about the Republican Party that lost by a 4.5% margin nationally?
No.
Well, there you go. That's your
No,
cognitive
because I felt the
dissonance on full
2020.
display.
No, I'll tell you why, since you've asked. Because I felt the 2020 election was effectively a referendum on a once in a lifetime pandemic, which affected absolutely everything. If that election had taken place,
the pandemic, that's what it comes down to. Trump had a record economy before the pandemic. They knew he was going to run in a record landslide, so they needed the plan to come out, which it did, and it was successful. Then they blamed everything on Trump, said it was the end of the world, end of our democracy. Then they set up January 6th. As we know, there were feds in the crowds. I mean, it's already been exposed. It was all a setup. I mean, Nancy Pelosi has even been exposed on camera saying that January 6th was her fault, yet the Democrats never want to talk about it. They knew Trump was going to win, and that was the only reason they did it. And they had to hide Biden in the basement because he was demented, as he is today, still till this day. And they knew they could not beat Trump by policy because the left doesn't have any policy. They have abortion, which is reproductive rights, as they say, which Chicago conservative made a really good point. Reproductive means reproduce. You're not reproducing when you're killing babies. It's actually the complete opposite. So they're literally just running on abortions, killing babies, and we're not Trump and January 6th. The American people aren't that stupid.
before the pandemic in 2020, say in February, Trump would have won, I think, by a landslide. So I think that's why I say they're different circumstances. Let me bring in Carrie here. Carrie, Trump's got a remarkable mandate now. I mean, really, I rang him the morning after he won, and even he couldn't quite believe the scale of what was going down in terms of the size of the win. But with that comes a big responsibility, doesn't it? You know, people are looking to him now to fix the southern border, to fix the cost of living crisis, to sort out the wars in Ukraine and Israel and stuff. Are you confident that he can deliver on these promises he's made?
100%. He's done it before. I mean, look at the world that he gave us for the 4 years he was in office. He actually was winding down the endless wars, much to the chagrin of the war machine that wanted to keep things churned up. He brought us the strongest economy across the board. Didn't matter if you're Democrat, Republican, black, white, didn't matter your background, what neighborhood you lived in, what zip code, everybody was doing better. He made our streets safer, and he was helping improve life for everyday Americans, whether they voted for him or not. I think he's assembling an incredible team, and I have faith that these nominees will be approved, will be confirmed, and he will get to work immediately, as quickly as possible after January 20th. Hopefully they'll get confirmed right away, starting to turn things around. The American people expect it. The American people got out and voted. They gave President Trump a mandate. And I'm looking forward to seeing these confirmations happen and then get to work on turning things around in Washington, D.C., because God knows we've got to turn things around. The bureaucrats have been in control for far too long. And this is a government of the people, by the people, and for the people. And I'm glad that he's bringing citizens in to help in some of these positions. And you mentioned a few of them. I think Pam Bondi is great. I think we've got some powerful women that have been nominated. And, you know, I'm sure that Mark Cuban is curled up in a fetal position right now, seeing all these strong, intelligent women.
Well, you know what, Carrie? You know what? There's two things that made me chuckle. One is the sheer volume of women in this cabinet. It's an incredibly diverse cabinet. And secondly, the fact that it looks like all of America now is doing the Trump dance. And to remind people, the Trump dance is from a song called YMCA. Even Geraldo's doing it. YMCA by the Village People. It is the greatest gay anthem in music history. So Trump, the supposed biggest bigot in America, has literally chosen a gay anthem to get America dancing. I mean, if that isn't a unifying thing, I don't know what is.
Well, you know what? President Trump isn't anti-gay. I mean, it's great music. It's great music. You know, I love the song. I love that people are dancing. I just saw there's a Thanksgiving tradition now going around here in America where people are doing the dance with their whole family. And I think it's unifying.
I love
it's
that.
Fun.
You know what? Why not? You know what? A lot of stuff can be solved by dancing. Honestly, it can. If you think about it.
Have you heard of turtle traders? They were a group of 14 novice traders.
You go to a party with your family, you've had a rough old year with your family, the music kicks up, YMCA comes on, you all get dancing, and suddenly you're all back in love with each other. I want to bring in Kevin because there's some breaking news while we've been talking that the special counsel, Jack Smith, has now instructed a judge to dismiss the federal election interference case against Donald Trump. He told the judge that the case should be closed because of the Justice Department's policy that bans the prosecution of a sitting president. You know, all this legal stuff against Trump is obviously falling apart now. And I felt that that was another key. We haven't really talked about this as being a key reason that he ended up winning. In fact, becoming the nominee again was because of the weaponization of the justice system, which I think is completely inarguable. And the fact that one case they chose to drag him through the criminal court first was over shuffling paperwork over an alleged one-night stand with a porn star 18 years ago seemed to me so ridiculously trivial and frankly pathetic to do that to an American president that actually it massively backfired. And that you saw through the year.
And the whole rape trial is just hogwash. I mean, the woman said it was what, like 19 years ago. There's no proof. It's literally hearsay. There was no reports at all. And then when regards to the porn star, it was a setup. He gave the money to Cohen, or he thought it was for like a business transaction, and Cohen sent it to Stormy Daniels. On top of that, Stormy has came out on multiple occasions. There's even an affidavit she signed saying it never happened, that they didn't sleep together. So they can continue to use the same lies every day, but the public isn't buying it. And that's exactly why the public and mass formation voted for Trump, because they don't believe the lies anymore. The media is dead. Big media is dead. We are the new media.
Actually, I'll tell you when you saw it from when Ron DeSantis was way ahead in the polls to be a Republican nominee. And I interviewed him, I think it was March last year, and he was absolutely looking like he was running away with it. And then the left started to weaponize the justice system, case after case after case. And each time they did it, each time Trump appeared in court, he got more popular, he got a boost in the polls until he became an unstoppable wrecking ball to the very party that was doing it to him. And I felt that, along with one more thing, the shooting at the rally and the way he responded to that, I think that as well was a massive impact on Americans. You thought, you know what, whatever you think of him, that was badass ballsy. Kevin, discuss.
The left always overplays its hand, Piers. We see that in so many issues, starting with the gravest political persecution in modern American history against Donald Trump.
Russia,
it would be
Russia.
really tragic against any American citizen, but particularly against a former president. You see it as they've done it with the transgender ideology, which we were talking about earlier, the lawlessness at the southern border, the lawlessness in American cities, the fact that in our public schools, we're not just teaching wokeness and DEI, but educational attainment has decreased among every demographic group during the 45 years the U.S. Department of Education has been around. It's all of those reasons and those that you mentioned that a majority of Americans have said that Donald Trump is given a mandate for disruption. I think that's what this is. And it is a mandate. If you look at the people he's appointing to his cabinet, they reflect the entire center right, probably 65% of the electorate. I think that it is the beginning of a golden era in American history, Piers. Not just the next 4 years under President-elect Trump and Vice President-elect Vance, but I think if they succeed in returning the country to normal, this realignment, which is historic in American history, is going to be around for half a century. I think our friends on the left are shaking in their boots.
Well, let me go to a friend.
Let
me go to a friend on the left, Brian, because you tweeted,
so cringe,
or posted to X on 25th of November about Project 2025. You got one of the architects sitting right next to me here. You said Trump just named to architect of Project 2025 Russ Vought to his cabinet.
Yeah, the left has been screaming and crying and throwing tantrums, saying Trump's whole plan was Project 2025, even though for past 2 years he's had Agenda 47 on his platform. Another lie the left likes to say. Isn't it amazing that they never tell the truth about anything because they think Americans are dumb? And then Trump, they'll say he's brutally honest. They don't like how honest he is. I would like someone who's too honest compared to someone who just lies 24/7. And people like Brian, soy boy, no balls, he thinks Americans are stupid. You're too stupid to do very simple research. Agenda47.com. That's all you had to ever do. All this Project 2025 hogwash is just ridiculous.
But hey, thank God mainstream media didn't just take Trump's tepid denials at face value and slap them in their headlines before the election. So look, you've got an opportunity now. You've got one of the other architects sitting right next to me. What do you want to say to him?
I mean,
Now's your chance.
I don't know.
That's very articulate.
Yeah, he's a weasel.
I mean, I don't know what you mean. Like, I don't have.
Well, you
obviously
have a big problem with Project 2025. You've got one of the architects.
Okay,
I have a question for him.
Okay,
I have a question for him.
Yeah.
Why did Donald Trump lie about your report, that he pretended that he didn't know what it was about? I mean, how do you feel when you heard the president of the United States uttering what was clearly and easily discernible falsehood? It really was very distressing. You have some very clever ideas. I read Ayn Rand. I like the Fountainhead and all that. And I consider myself a centrist person.
No, you're not. No, you're not.
But I agree about lawfare completely. I agree that a president should be immune from criminal prosecution. Also, I agree with you, Piers, about the one night stand with Stormy Daniels. Ridiculous for him. It was, if anything, it was one misdemeanor, not 34 or 24 felonies, whatever he was charged with. But now I think that the real challenge will be, what will President Trump do vis-a-vis the Ukraine-Russia conflict?
Well, I'm going to come to that, actually, Gerardo, I'm going to come back to that as the next issue. But just on that one point, let me go back to Kevin. I want to play Trump's denials of 2025 knowledge. Let's take a look.
Like some on the right, severe right.
Severe. There's no severe right.
25.
Common sense versus no sense. I don't even
know. I mean, some of them I know who they are, but they're very, very conservative. I don't know what the hell it is. It's Project 25. He's involved in Project, but I don't know anything about it. I don't want to know anything about it. But what they do is misinformation and disinformation. Number one, I have nothing to do, as you know, and as she knows better than anyone, I have nothing to do with Project 2025. That's out there. I haven't read it. I don't want to read it purposely. I'm not going to read it.
Not his plan.
And then he said on
I guess that's the point, Piers, is...
Hang on one sec, Brian. Hang on one sec.
What's the point?
He said on his platform...
Not to alarm you, but it's almost bikini season. And that's why I'm starting to Lumi now.
Come on.
Sorry, guys. Truth Social. I've no idea who's behind it. I disagree with some of the things they're saying. Some of the things they're saying are absolutely ridiculous and abysmal. So, Kevin, what was your response when you saw him effectively just totally denounce and distance himself from your project?
That the left spending $75 million mischaracterizing it was working for a few weeks in the campaign. You saw President Trump use the word misinformation. That's exactly what it was. They told only one true thing about the project, Piers, and that was that we want to eliminate the U.S. Department of Education. And ultimately, the great news, and you saw it respectfully of our
Teachers Union,
panel, Brian, stuttering in an attempt to pursue this, it didn't win. It failed. It was an abject failure. So even all of that mischaracterization, causing the president, understandably, in a political moment to distance himself from it, did not work. This is what the American people are saying. They're tired of the BS from the left. They stopped using this trope in the last weeks of the campaign because they realized the American people were worried about what? The economy, the lawlessness at the border, the fact that men were being called women and women were being called men. And there was one candidate, Donald Trump, who was standing up for that. And guess what? We've done this since 1980. We're going to keep doing it for posterity's sake because it's about revitalizing the American dream.
Okay. I mean, Brian, Geraldo bought you about 3 minutes of time there to try and think whether you had a problem with Project 2025. So now's your chance again.
I do think it's pretty telling that when Donald Trump had the opportunity to talk about Project 2025, all he claimed that he had no idea who was behind it. He had no idea what was in it. He had no idea whether the people who did write it, what they stood for. And
but
he
was distancing himself from the
administration right now, including Russ Vought at OMB.
Right.
And yet
that has nothing to do with it, dude. Why do you lie?
And yet now, when people don't have the opportunity to vote on it because they've already had that opportunity, suddenly all of these denials about his relationship with Project 2025.
But out of interest, what is your big problem with it?
Yeah, what's wrong with it?
My big problem with Project 2025 is Schedule F, and this notion that Donald Trump will be able to go in and replace career civil servants with political appointees.
So get rid of the unelected bureaucrats that no one voted for.
You sound like a sore loser, Brian.
That's your retort to that?
You are.
It's not a bad retort, is it?
Well, okay. Let me put it in the form of a question. Let me put it in the form of a question. Will Donald Trump seek to go in and replace career civil servants with political appointees?
Ask him. He's the president-elect. And it would be a great idea if he did. It's also legal and appropriate because guess what?
We have had Unelected bureaucrats, even these ones in Congress and Senate, in there forever, and they've never left. I mean, Jerry Nadler, for example, has literally pooped himself alive before. The dude literally reads off a script every single time he's talking. He says nothing. These people that are in their 80s and 90s who have been in politics for 50 plus years, they need to dip. They do nothing to help us. Deuces, find young freedom fighters that actually care about the country and replace them. Yes, I agree with that.
American people voted for, my friend, reducing the size of the dramatic overreach of the federal government. Welcome to modern America. It's going to be a normal country.
It's actually not legal because there's a regulation against it, and these federal employees have protections as career civil servants.
You should stop reading Howard Zinn and read some real history, brother.
All right,
That's your response again.
Let me just segue. I want to just segue.
I guess you had all this opportunity. Kevin had all this opportunity to wait and listen, and his response is just that I shouldn't read what I'm reading.
Well, to be honest with you, I did open the door
said.
5 minutes ago, and you blew it. So I've got no sympathy. Let me come back to what Haraldo said about the wars. Two big wars have been raging now. One for 2 years, one for a year. Ukraine and Russia and Israel, Hamas. You know, Trump. I said to someone today, it's not beyond the realms of fantasy that Trump could end up solving both of these wars, given he's a natural deal maker, given that there's a will pretty much on every side now to try and get these things resolved, and that he could end up with the Nobel Peace Prize. Am I mad?
I would love to see it. I would appreciate it more than I can say, that our children's children will not be going to war, that World War III won't be visited upon us. These are two intractable problems that I don't know how in the world they are solved. Does Ukraine give up half of its territory?
No, we do a peace agreement. It's really that simple. The people of Ukraine, the people of Russia, especially the people in Ukraine, I've seen tons of videos. Some may be fake, guarantee a lot are real. They do not want this war. They are literally pulling people away from their loved ones and forcing them on the front lines. We know that for a fact. It's happening. And the fact that they're still prolonging this war with our taxes, sending them our ammo and stockpiles of ammunition, that should be used for us if we need to defend our own homeland. For example, immigration. We have a border being overran. We should be protecting ourselves doing that, not giving them to all these other countries that these other crooked politicians couldn't even point to on a freaking map. Enough of the fear mongering. We need to have a peace agreement. And sadly, it was the U.S. that brought us into the war because there was a peace treaty on the table. And what happened? Joe Biden sent Boris Johnson to break up that peace treaty. The agreement was also not to join NATO. Ukraine was not supposed to join NATO. That was the agreement. They broke that because the U.S. tried to bring him in under Biden as well. Also, we know Putin, back when Clinton was in the White House, tried to join NATO. He wanted this peace, and he said no. So on numerous occasions, the U.S. has directly been in the reason why this war is happening. We need to start electing America First patriots. That's it. It really comes down to that. Democrats are warmongers. Republicans, not all Republicans. We do have bad apples on our side, but most Republicans do not want these wars.
The Israelis trust that Hamas will yield the hostages that have been underground for a year. I think that these are very, very difficult. It's easy to be glib about things, social issues, cultural issues, but when it's life and death, and now with the launch of the intercontinental ballistic missile, of course, didn't go intercontinentally, but it was ballistic missile. It was gravity driven, and it impacted 400 miles away. And I understand that yesterday's news was that the red phone was employed by Russia to counsel our defense department that they were not launching an ICBM strike on the United States. I mean, that's bone chilling to me.
It is, but I still think
go over there.
It is bone chilling.
Go over there. If you're so obsessed with all these other countries, donate your own mother. Don't donate your own mother. Donate your own money and send your own money there, because the American people are barely getting by. So how about we start focusing on America? I mean, the fact that Piers has talked about Ukraine-Russia war more in this segment than, let's say, the border crisis or illegals killing Americans blows my mind. It's because he's a warmonger neocon.
But that's exactly what Putin wants us all to feel.
Oh, God.
And he's been rattling the nuclear weapons
why test
card against us now for 2.5 years. And you know what? Every time a red line's been crossed, he doesn't actually.
Yeah, so
use
let's
think he's full of
let's just keep on testing his patience, Pierce, and let's just keep on pushing him in a corner until he eventually has to react. Does this dude not notice how dumb he sounds? Let's just keep on prolonging this war, letting innocent people die on both sides because I hate Putin. It makes absolutely no sense. Why not come to a peace treaty or try to get negotiations on the table so people stop dying, Piers, you warmonger neocon? It is amazing this dude has a show.
Piers, though, can you even imagine if this were happening on Donald Trump's watch and we were being marched straight into World War III and he was meandering through a Brazilian rainforest and JD Vance was on vacation in Hawaii?
No, I don't disagree with that. I think that is a very valid point. No, I think that's a very valid point. But I do think, I would say to you, Carrie, though, I would say what I said to a lot of Republicans is if you go back 30 years, the idea that any Republicans.
Why does he keep on bringing up the past?
Interested.
Why does he keep on bringing up the past?
Understood that they could use sound to reduce their weight.
He always does this. He always goes back to the past. That's the old parties. That's the old neocon Republicans like Liz Cheney, Adam Kinzinger. We don't want that anymore. How is it that hard for you to get, Pierce? We understand you're one of them. But the Republican base, the American people do not want wars anymore. We want peace. We know you love wars. We know that Fox pays you to say these things, you neocon. But we are sick of wars. We are sick of our taxes funding these wars. If that's hard for you to get, how about you go fight overseas? No one will miss you. Go fight.
In saying that America shouldn't help a sovereign democratic European
country. Not with our taxes,
no.
An
invading Russian
Who are you?
Would have been unthinkable. And yet here we
Piers,
are.
We've
You've
given
done a complete volte-face.
$260 billion of our treasure to this country to help. The war was lost when they lost the spring offensive. We should have gone to the negotiating table and brought in our best negotiators to bring peace. This is not a Democrat-Republican issue. This is about bringing peace to the world. And instead, we've got a guy who can't even find his way off a stage, allowing this to continue on. If he cares one iota about America, he would get on the phone with Donald Trump and ask him to come in right now and help negotiate peace. I think it can happen. I trust that President Trump can make that happen, but I don't trust that Joe Biden loves this country enough to make that happen.
Yeah, but I think we should also remember who the really bad guys are.
Oh, yeah.
It's Vladimir Putin.
No, they're both bad guys. I mean, Ukraine is not a democracy. And first of all, we live in a constitutional republic. Not a democracy at all. They are actually one of the #1 countries in the world where human sex trafficking takes place. You want to talk about that, Piers? Or how about the fact that they didn't even have an election? Or how about the fact that they lock up journalists who aren't pro-Ukraine or pro-Zelensky? Such a joke.
And his Russian barbaric invaders, because they did what they did, and they didn't need to do that.
They did.
They did it. And
There was peace treaties on the table, and Biden sent Boris Johnson to break it up. The agreement was no one go join NATO. They broke that. So they broke their promises. Why is that so hard for Piers to accept?
I grew up in a big military family, and the idea that a Russian dictator could just invade European countries and help himself to their land would have been completely unthinkable that we would want to accept that.
But how are we trying to stop that? We're just pouring more money into the war instead of trying to stop it.
To which I would say, what price? Freedom and democracy.
Oh, my God.
Well, $260 billion, and now we're hearing that as much as half of that may have been laundered through Ukrainian officials, and much of it coming back into Democrat politicians.
But what would you have said? All right, but Carrie, what would you have said in 1939 when Hitler
We're not in
invaded
We're not in 1939, dude. That is a terrible counter argument. This is how you know they've lost the argument, when they bring up the past, because they have no arguments. They can't debate it. Where's our money? Where the hell is our money at, Piers?
No, I'm talking about this war right now.
Well, I'm saying it's a similar thing. You got a total nutcase in charge of invading hordes, invading a sovereign European democratic country.
Wow.
Piers, America is bearing the brunt of the funding of this. And I don't see Europe clamoring to throw their treasure in like America.
Britain has actually given more than any other European country. But I take your point. I do think
not more than America.
Well, I do. No, of course. And I do think America always has to get the lion's share. Brian, just quickly, these two wars.
All right, guys, that's the end of this video. I do want to show you guys one more video of the best counter argument. An ex-Democrat actually came out in this viral video on Twitter today, and I want you guys to see what she said. TikToks and X President Trump is surging with young voters. According to YoungGov, Trump has a plus 19-point favorable rating with ages 18 to 29. TikTok and X are big reasons why. Our campus videos were seen 3 billion times this semester. Truth is excellent. This woman nails every talking point, and I want you guys to hear this.
I too was quite liberal during my college years,
Let me make sure I have it connected. Yes, I do. All right, guys, you're going to love this.
we all are. I mean, American institutions are essentially left-wing indoctrination camps, and we know this to be true. You go in,
Soy
you're
boys,
inundated with
yes.
left-wing orthodoxy, and you exit much more liberal than before. We all know this to be true. But then I started thinking, I started noticing many inconsistencies. Why does the media say that he hates the middle class when he established the largest middle class tax cuts in history, when the median middle class income was up $5,000?
Hey,
Why do they
Sharon.
say he hates gay people when he wanted to decriminalize homosexuality worldwide? He has gay weddings all the time at Mar-a-Lago, and he was the only president in U.S. history to enter office having a pro-gay marriage position. Not the Bidens, not Obama.
Hey, Sharon, hope you're having a great night.
It's not Clinton's. No, Trump. Why do they claim he's some kind of racist when those claims had never been made before he ran for president? And then he's only ever accomplished wonderful things for minorities. Lowest ever poverty rates for Asian Americans, Black Americans, Latino Americans, and women. Highest ever employment rates for women, Latino Americans, Black Americans, Asian Americans. Why do the same celebrities who used to fawn over him, love him, adore him, suddenly think that he's the Antichrist? I'm talking Oprah, Ellen, Joy Behar, Whoopi Goldberg, Mika from MSNBC. They all loved him. And then suddenly they're instructed that he's literally Satan. I'm thinking, if censorship is used to control people and control the narrative, why did they ban the president from Twitter for 2 years, from Instagram for 2 years, from YouTube for 2 years, from Twitter for 2 years? Why did Twitter and Facebook then censor and shadow ban conservative accounts? I'm thinking, why did Twitter censor the Hunter Biden laptop story? Why did legacy media nearly uniformly post negatively about him for 8 consecutive years? So things are shady, and then they use lawfare against him. Lawfare is legal warfare. It's an attempted legal assassination. They weaponize the Department of Justice against the sitting president of the United States. That's never been done before in United States history. They drummed up a bunch of BS charges from some simple paperwork misfiling, one of them, and they turned it into 34 felonies, and they couldn't even go after him because the statute of limitations had run out. So a bunch of lawyers in New York who literally hate him changed the New York law so that they could prosecute him through a legal loophole. Most insane story ever. Meanwhile, they let the Clintons and Bidens off scot-free for genuine criminal behavior. So everything thus far is a lie. And then you listen to his press conferences for 30 minutes, the full 30 minutes, the full hour. And then you go on MSNBC, CNN, New York Times, and somehow they've spun his words around into the polar opposite of what he said. It's like I just saw him deliver a wonderful speech. And now the New York Times is tweeting that he said something horribly discriminatory. What? I mean, a good example of this is the Very Fine People hoax.
Yes, the Very Fine People hoax, which they still till this day use and lie about on a daily basis. All you have to do is, if you ever hear they say one word that Trump says out of context, just look up the whole speech. Look up how he uses the word, because they always take everything Trump says, one word out of context, and lie and lie and lie. Repeat, next day, lie and lie and lie.
Explicitly condemned hate groups, explicitly condemned them. And then all the headlines were, Trump condones these terrorist organizations. What? That is the polar opposite of what he did. And then you wonder how they can say he's money hungry and selfish when he refused a salary while in office. Meanwhile, his career politician counterparts are getting richer and richer and richer and richer by the hundreds of millions of dollars. And then they tell all women, they fearmonger them into thinking that there's going to be an abortion ban. Meanwhile, his policy is very clear that he would never enact one. He would veto one if one was enacted. He's always...
The abortion situation has been played out. Mainstream or majority of Americans don't buy it anymore. I mean, he returned it back to the states so the people can vote on what they want. It's really that simple. He's not going to ban anything. It's just fear-mongering from the left as usual.
Supported the 3 exceptions, and then they fearmonger women into thinking that people are being prosecuted for having
Squid Man,
miscarriages. Not one woman in the United States has ever been prosecuted for having a miscarriage, and that story about the Ohioan woman was a complete and utter hoax. She was prosecuted for charges completely unrelated to abortion. And then you keep digging and you wonder why the New York Times posted photos of children in cages saying that that was Trump's doing. Meanwhile, those photos were proven to be taken in 2014 under Obama. And then you wonder why Newsweek falsely reported that Trump was in Florida golfing during Thanksgiving when he was literally in Afghanistan serving dinner to troops. So they say he hates every single demographic, even though he's helped literally every demographic. They say he's a woman hater. They compare him to an evil, murderous dictator. They censor him on every platform. They lie about his policies. They try to falsely imprison him, and then they try to kill him in Butler, Pennsylvania. And then one can only help but wonder, why is all of liberal orthodoxy backed by the mainstream media, academia, every celebrity, Hollywood, legacy media, social media, every American institution? Why are we being fed this narrative over and over and over and over when it directly contradicts the truth at every turn? And then I realized conservatives are the resistance. Conservatives are resisting against the big government machine. I mean, when you tune out the narrative, the pieces start coming together. It feels like you've been in the Truman Show, the damn Truman Show. Everything's a false reality. The reality comes down and you see things for what it is. And then you realize just how deep the corruption goes. That is just the tip of the iceberg. People are raging against the big government, dissent-free, uniparty machine. It's a movement.
Yep, it's the people versus the machine. We are the news. We are the future, not the big media. They are done. They've exposed their cards and they will not gain that trust back. Again, if you're coming from Twitter, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. It's called Politics and Life, or you can search California JB5460. Hope all my freedom-loving patriots have a blessed night. Love you guys. Peace.